Welcome to Ladies Who Lead podcast.
I am Dr. Lindsay Tabacolian. I'm a plastic surgeon and I practice in Dallas, Texas.
And I'm Mary Catherine Thebe. I am the founder and personal stylist of Madison Matlock. Our mission is to bring women together in a supportive network for help with business, entrepreneurship, relationships, and more.
You are listening to Ladies Who Lead podcast, where we will share real conversations with real women who inspire us.
Our guest today is Miss Texarkana, Madison Matlock. Madison currently lives in Dallas and is applying her pageant scholarships towards an MBA at the SMU Cox School of Business. Madison lost a sorority sister and friend to an underage drunk driver while they were both ag majors at Texas A&M. Madison has since turned her grief into a beautiful platform, advocating against drunk driving. In this podcast episode, Madison also shares how she finds community in the postgraduate world and how her generation is using social media trends to promote healthy living. She is positive, bubbly, and absolutely brilliant, and we cannot wait to support her as she competes for Miss Texas in June. You are listening to Ladies Who Lead podcast. We thank you for listening.
I'm so happy to be here. I'm happy for you guys. This is such a big step. And I'm honored that you wanted me to be here and just talk and share my story. That means a lot to me because I think you guys are awesome. And I'm very proud to be in the same circle and for you to want to include me in your circle. I think we're going to gush a lot this episode. We're just going to gush over each other.
First and foremost, congratulations, Miss Texarkana.
I'm from, outside Lubbock. I live in Dallas, but I'm representing Texarkana. So I have to explain that a little bit sometimes, that pageants and the preliminary pageants, which are the contests, or I guess the competitions you have to win to qualify to go to Miss Texas, some are open. So girls from all over the state can compete, and there are some that are closed. So within a certain amount of distance, I guess a radius, like 50-mile radius, you can compete. So a bigger title where they need girls who are local, they're going to be closed. It's going to be a closed pageant, but Texarkana was open, and it's been kind of this like weird blessing, and where God has worked in quietly behind the scenes, and I had no idea. And it's just been a joy to represent them. They're just a great support system.
How many pageants do you have to do to get to that point?
Gosh, okay, so I wouldn't say I'm a pageant historian or an expert, but I've been doing this a while. So I thought about it this morning, probably 20 years off and on doing pageants throughout my lifetime. And it's just been a long, long love affair. So the process, I will say it's like this. So you can sign up for a local pageant, a preliminary. So Miss Dallas, a Miss Las Colinas, which I wish they would do. Las Colinas is great. A Miss Austin. So you go and compete there. And if you win, you qualify for Miss Texas. If you don't win, you can go to another local. So there are some girls, they might win one local. And there are girls that, they compete all year long. I really believe that you have to find the organization that's right for you and that's going to support you during your year. And so for some girls, they really want to be close to their hometown to represent that. Some people, the directors and the board are what they need at that time, especially as a new girl coming in. My first year, I went to Southeast Texas. So I had a Houston title, but I was living in Dallas. That was such a great experience for me because that board was so hands-on and they just loved on me, and they just still have poured into me, even as I haven't been their girl, for the last 2 years. That is valuable to me, and that's always what I've looked for in a local organization, is people that just love me for me and going to support me. They aren't trying to change me or trying to mold me into what they feel like I should be as Miss Texas, because I know that Miss Texas will happen for me just because everything is perfect in its time. And if it's meant for me, it will happen for me. So it takes some dating a little bit, finding the right directors. But then, after you win a prelim, you prepare for Miss Texas. So those prelims go from literally right after Miss Texas to, I think the last one was just a few weeks ago, the El Paso pageant. Shout out El Paso.
Something that we've talked about a lot lately is making sure that you're genuine, because then you'll attract the right people. So I love that perspective because that's the crowd you want to attract. You want to attract people like-minded and who actually value you for who you are.
I'm glad that you brought that up. I think that that's been my biggest goal this year, is to not only be authentic, but I think being very comfortable with being vulnerable. The interesting thing I think about pageants is people see us and they go, oh, you're just so perfect, you're pretty, like nothing bad's happened to you. But you want to be vulnerable enough to where it's like, yes, like I am a real person, but also not so vulnerable that you're just like gushing all of your feelings out all the time. And not everybody wants to show the darkest parts of their lives. And I think that's totally valid. But I'm somebody, I struggle to be vulnerable. I don't want people to know that, yeah, like I'm a normal person and I deal with very normal things. But I've really challenged myself to open myself up and open myself to other people and just be comfortable being myself. That has been my big goal, is just to let go, I think, of that persona that I feel like I'm supposed to be and just be myself and be comfortable just making friends. I was talking with one of my interview coaches yesterday, and I said, I'm just going into these next few months just like arms open, like head up high, like this is me and I'm just enjoying this experience, and I'm going to bring more people in than be putting my head down and being so laser focused. I think being laser focused has bit me in the butt a few times because I'm looking down and I'm thinking about interview or learning the production number, or I'm like freaking out just in general. And I'm not looking up at all the people around me and all the connections that I can make and the friends that I can make. And that's just such a loss. And I'm having to recoup that loss right now and just open myself up, spill those guts out a little bit and connect with people. Because yeah, nobody wants a cookie cutter Miss Texas. No. They want somebody that's going to just be 100% themselves and arms wide open. And I think the perfect example is power, presence, and warmth for sure.
What are some of your biggest platforms or things that you want to influence potentially the younger generation, or honestly even older generations too?
Mm-hmm. So I guess my first passion is definitely my platform, which is Generation Zero. And that is really focused on putting an end to drunk driving, but also alcohol abuse. And previously I had a different name and kind of a different message. And I thought to myself, I really want to expand this. I would love for this to be my full-time job and to become, more of what I'm doing all the time and less of just like as a pageant girl. So Generation Zero, I've spent time in schools, really talking about the dangers of drunk driving and telling my story as a victim, a very indirect victim, but still a victim. And I had to find that word through becoming a volunteer with MAD. So I talked about my friend Carly. She was my sorority sister and my friend and fellow ag major at Texas A&M. And she was hit by an underage drunk driver walking home with her roommates. And that completely changed my life. I never thought that my life would be how it is now at 19. I'm 24 and I've become a MAD volunteer. I've received awards for the work that I've done. I've lobbied on legislation now. I've spoken to thousands of kids, and traveled thousands of miles across the state. This is never what was a part of my plan. And so I love sharing that with people. And I've really expanded the alcohol abuse part recently in this last year, just due to the fact that like mocktails and sober living has blown up. And I mean, if you know anything about Gen Z and reaching the younger generation, it's you just got to go with what's trending sometimes and being extremely relevant. And for me, connecting to not only my generation, but younger generations and even older generations is through, I say older generations, y'all are not that much older. But we could hang out at like a company function or in like a women's club and it wouldn't be weird for sure. But like we definitely had different experience. Like we were talking about 2005 fashion, yes. And I was like 5'6". I was a little kid. I started kindergarten that year, but I was like, it's funny.
You were in kindergarten when I was almost done with college. So it's an interesting perspective.
Yeah, we lived different lives. But my passion really is for, opening up, the conversation about drunk driving and how prevalent it is in our community, but also how prevalent alcohol abuse is in just our culture. It's 14 million Americans, the age 12 over the age of 12. I'm sorry, bad stat. Over the age of 12 are struggling with alcohol use disorder. That's upsetting because we're including over the age of 12-year-olds. And it's just a part of our culture. And I know that because I've worked in business and I've worked in the sales world and company happy hours and taking your clients to big lunches and dinners. There is a lot of drinking sometimes. And I had to take a look at that and go, I don't think this is serving me as well. And I had to do a lot of recon with my relationship. And so that's where that part has opened up of, doing the research surrounding how it ties with drunk driving prevention, which is totally at the core of what I want to talk about and do, and just how they correlate and how it has affected us as a culture. I would not say I'm anti-alcohol at all. I still love an espresso martini, but I'm, anti binge drinking, not taking responsibility, for your family, for your job in that time, and doing so much damage, but then also getting behind the wheel at that, at that state. Not anti-alcohol, anti-drunk driving, anti-abuse, anti-putting people at danger.
I think that moderation perspective is so important because I think a lot of people are pretty polarized, it's like all or nothing. And so to be able to influence, this new generation, the last guest we had on our podcast, Christy Berryhill, amazing woman. Her dad was killed by a drunk driver.
Wow.
And, the grief that she's been through having to deal with that, this amazing man, he was driving to work.
There's a really interesting stat that when I heard it, it kind of completely changed my approach, and just how this is not a social issue, but more of like a public health crisis, is that 2 out of 3 Americans will be impacted by drunk driving in their lifetime. That to me just that touched my life because like I'm one of 2. Like I'm a part of that statistic. And that's, like I said, I never thought that would be a part of my life or my story, but for so many people it is. And you never think it's going to happen to you until it does. And that was the first time. I mean, I was 19. It is not fun to deal with your mortality at 19. That was the first time where I really felt like I saw evil in the world. And I don't want to say that as like drunk drivers are evil, but just the no remorse for his actions. And that to me just opened my eyes. It is totally preventable.
I trained at Parkland for residency. Part of plastic and reconstructive surgery training is working in the trauma halls, but then also reconstructing the people who come through the trauma halls.
Yeah.
And I would have to say that the majority of my memories from being in the trauma halls and then also reconstructing really bad injuries were all tied to alcohol being involved in driving.
I think your story would be really valuable at the victim impact panels, which is kind of that's where I spend the most of my time as a MAD volunteer, is at the victim impact panels. And this is a court mandated session or seminar through the DWI case and sentencing process. So it's first time and repeat offenders and people who have been impacted by drunk driving, whether it is directly or indirectly, such as as a healthcare professional. They come in and speak to people who are literally going through the sentencing process for drinking and driving. It has opened my eyes up a lot. And I think it has been the biggest healing component for me as an indirect victim, because you're looking in the eyes of the people that committed the same crime that killed your friend. That's exactly how I view it, is looking in the eyes and offering forgiveness. And I'm always willing to offer forgiveness because I've been forgiven. And I've struggled with that for a long time because people have asked, what if you ever meet the guy that killed Carly? Do you forgive them? Those are often questions that come up. And, I'm willing to offer forgiveness if you're willing to change and take that experience and use it to better yourself, to build a foundation to help others. But if you use that time and just continue to perpetuate and hurt not only yourself, but the people around you, the community, I'm not willing to. And that's hard to say because, like I said, super open to forgiving. But I always say at the end of victim impact panels, it's like, this is an opportunity to either build something or let it destroy you. And it has just been the biggest joy of my life to do that. And it has healed so much and has really changed my view on, not on drunk driving, but on people and the people in those seats. Because for a long time, I demonized them and I thought that they were these big, evil, scary people. I look in that crowd and it's grandparents. It's people that I see like on my walk at Bishop Arts. And like when I go get coffee, people I would work with, like these are very normal people. And it changed that a lot for me. and gave me such a perspective of these are just people. The gift I've been given and the passion that's been laid on my heart is to just share that story and speak to them and hope that it makes an impact and offer resources for them to get help. All I want to do is help people at the end of the day, and especially people in that situation.
Can you tell us more about the resources and how to get involved?
Yeah, with Mad. Oh my gosh, my favorite thing to talk about. As a volunteer, there's a webpage to sign up and really share what you're best at. That's the kind of the beautiful thing I think about Mad is there's always a place for someone. So if you have legislative skills, or you're somebody that has been in the courts for some reason, maybe as an advocate for another organization, they need court advocates. If you are somebody that has worked in legislation as an aide or for a lobbyist group, they need people to help pass those laws surrounding intoxication, manslaughter, and drunk driving prevention and drunk driving prevention technologies. That's kind of the new buzzword right now. Always check out mad.org. And if you're somebody who wants to speak at victim impact panels, if you've been directly impacted, there is a way to sign up for those and to express that interest.
These statistics you mentioned, this is not something that's rare, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I think it's so encouraging that your generation is interested and excited about changing their relationship with alcohol. I'm very curious though, how do you think that became a thing with your generation? Like, how is it social media platforms that have perpetuated this?
With alcohol abuse or like sober living?
Any and all of it.
We were just having this conversation earlier.
I'm not sure. Oh, no, continue. Finish your thought.
Oh, yeah. Well, we were just having this conversation earlier about y'all's generation and how y'all are choosing to be healthier.
Yeah.
Trying to find alternative drinks that are not alcoholic.
Yeah.
So tell us more about the generation and how y'all got into that.
I think it's kind of like a twofold thing. So number one, I think it has to do a lot with the fact that there's a lot of research on that alcohol really isn't that good for your brain. Red wine is really not that good for your heart. It does damage your sleep. And obviously we know it damages your liver. It's not the best for you. It's a drug.
Y'all,
and
it's terrible for aging too. I just want to put that in there.
Oh my gosh. And sleep, your sleep is so valuable. And that, they say beauty sleep. Yeah. If you're not sleeping good, you're going to look like a leather couch. You're going to not look good. I think because we're all very vain at the core. I think it has to do a lot with that health. And, I think there's kind of also been a movement with just like clean eating and really deconstructing the food industry and the alcohol industry, deconstructing these and going, is this actually really good for us? Am I comfortable with putting this in my body? And I also think it has to do with the fact that we've had smartphones in our pockets. Like I said, I'm 24. Smartphones have been in our pockets. The internet has been around as long as I've been alive. And I think people are going, I don't want people to have videos of me absolutely plastered on their phone. Just people I don't know either, because everybody is videoing all the time and people are taking vlogs and they're making TikToks and you just never know. And I think people are going like, we are constantly online. You never know who has a video of you. And I think there's just this realizing of going like, what I put out into the world, people are probably watching and people are probably videoing. And you might be a meme on Twitter or even worse, like on an old row page. I'm very proud of my generation for kind of being a part of that. And I think it's just sober living is so much more accessible now. I think previously within the last 10 years, if you told somebody that you're sober, you didn't drink, they'd be like, why are you so boring? Like, do you have a problem? Like, why? Like, it's not going to hurt you. Now there's so many more options where you can have a drink in your hand and it's a non-alcoholic canned mocktail or just a little fun drink, as I call them. And people would know the difference. You don't have to explain yourself to people anymore. And a lot of people are going like, oh, I'm kind of interested in that too. Like, what are you drinking? What are you trying? There's so many more options than just like an O'Doul's now, and things that are filled with adaptogens and minerals and just that are, that leave you better than you found them. And so I'm a big proponent of a fun drink with some adaptogens, some magnesium to relax the body, rather than that glass of wine. Because I've dealt with that before. It was a glass of wine like every night to wind down, and I thought that was normal. And it's not. And I had to learn that in post-grad because that was kind of normal in college. It was everywhere. And I'm just glad that there's so much more accessibility now.
I can't tell you how much this just makes me so happy because it definitely is a huge shift in culture.
Well, my favorite thing to do is go to that Whole Foods wall of like $5 non-alcoholic drinks and just go crazy. That's my favorite thing to do. Because I'm like, oh, I haven't tried this one. Go to Foxtrot. Oh, that's a new one. And just like, I have this fridge full of like fun, bubbly drinks. So if anybody wants to come over and like talk about sober living and just like in a very free space, like come over.
And
It'll be fun.
I have to say, you make the best TikToks and Instagram reels of you just putting these amazing mocktails together.
Thank you.
They're so engaging, so genuine.
Thank you. That was a big part of wanting to open myself up and just be comfortable being silly and being myself and cracking jokes, because previously I would have been like, oh, it's weird and it's not that good of a quality and I am saying everything wrong, and I never would have done that. But I finally was like, whatever, this is what I want to do and I'm just going to do it, and I'm going to do what is just me and just bring out my sense of humor and just have fun with it. And it has been the best creative outlet. People have been sending me mocktail recipes, which has been really fun. And I need to get on making some of them. But now that I'm that person that people think about when they see a mocktail reel on TikTok and they send it to me and they go, oh, you should make this one. That just makes me so happy. And I feel like I'm actually getting to reach people through just by being myself and having fun and standing in my kitchen and making like little potions in a fun glass.
And this is all something that is really meaningful to you because of your experience and because of your loss with your friend.
I genuinely want to open up the conversation because I think it's something that we struggle with very quietly because it is so normalized. And it feels, you feel kind of like a social pariah if you say like, I'm struggling with this, because it is so normalized and it's just a part of our culture. But I don't want people to be afraid to say like, I need to make a change to better myself. Because in the end, you know, that's one of the best things you can do is to, you know, to look inwardly and go, I want to be better for myself, better for the people around me. And in my life, in my own personal story, alcohol is not, you know, something that makes me better. Sometimes it isn't, it makes me worse. And I want to be present for my family, for my friends. And you know, especially during this time where I'm preparing for Miss Texas, I want to be fully here. I want my beauty sleep. I'm making these big strides in my health, and I'm in a calorie deficit. I don't want to mess it up because there's nothing better like when you wake up in the morning and you feel good and you feel proud of the work that you've put in. And I think that's one of the reasons why I love competing. I want to pivot the conversation because I talk about alcohol all the time. I think one of the reasons why I love competing is because I feel like I better my life during the process. Like I really, really make a difference in my own self and my mindset. And I think that young women need a space to grow and to explore themselves and to just grow into themselves confidently. Like no fear, just this is who I am. And pageants for me has done that. And not only just in the very physical, like I've lost 30 pounds. I've changed my diet. I finally really like exercise. I love Pilates. And I love being in the gym, and that was just never a part of my life.
What does your week look like as far as your physical exercise?
Well, sometimes it changes depending on how I feel. It is usually Pilates 3 to 4 times a week, along with utilizing a lot of weights. I used to be very scared of lifting heavy because I was like, oh no, I'm going to look like a bodybuilder. But it has, you know, putting on that muscle is good for you. And I feel so much better when I have implemented that as a part of my routine.
Burns fat too.
Yeah. And I'm trying to get into running. I think because of the shoes and all the fun gear. Running, like, have you seen those marathon TikToks where they're like, get ready with me for the Boston Marathon. But they have all these like, this is going to sound so basic, but like, oh, they've got these like fun, good shoes that are good for your stability and the vest. And you've got all these cool snacks and gels. And I'm like, I want to be a part of the club. I was like, there are so many cool things. I want to be a part of the club. So I'm trying to get into running, mainly too, to just like conquer that part of my brain. As a little girl, I was that kid that walked the mile. It was like, And now I'm that person, like I'm pushing myself. I ran my first 5K last year. I would love to do another one. I'm not sure if I can with the fact I'm preparing for a pageant and doing so much, but conquering that 5K and having my first I think I broke my mile time that I like of all my miles I had done. That was just such a big overcoming moment as somebody who told myself for a long time, like, I don't run, I don't do these things. Like, I hate this. And I finally became that person that's like, I do these things. I like this. And I'm going to challenge myself. And that's really where my physical change and really my drive to just really change my mental and physical well-being came from is I don't want to be that person that tells myself I can't do things or I won't do things, because I want to be that person, especially as like as a parent, as a grandparent. Like I think very far in the future. I want to be that person that says yes. Like I can go throw the ball. We can go on a walk. We can do those things. I'm always thinking about that when I make those decisions for my health, for my life, because I want to still be present one day, because life isn't just right now.
I think the general public, as we learn and understand more and have a longer lifespan, because, you know, our grandparents' generation and great-grandparents' generation may not have lived long enough to be able to think about longevity. One of the shifts that we're seeing right now is people, they want to be able to travel and live out their golden years. You don't want to be incapacitated with, you know, metabolic syndrome and losing limbs and suffering from infections and getting dialysis in the years where you can be done working and you can spend time with your kids and with your grandkids and with your great grandkids. And I think we're going to see over the next few decades a huge shift, like you're saying, understanding it's not about now, it's about the future. It's about having a long life ahead of you. 50 doesn't look 50 anymore. 50 looks like Jennifer Aniston, and that's accessible. It's not just celebrities.
Yeah. You know, one of the coolest things that I've seen, you know, when we really talk about like your health, the decisions you make now affect you and just continue making them as you get older. I've befriended an older Greek couple in Highland Park Village. They are the Sedaris family. I love them so much. Basil is like 90 years old and he walks for 45 minutes every morning and every evening. And he has so much life about him. He's mobile. You know, he's not like sitting in he's up and moving. He's mobile. He's making sure he's on those walks. He was even telling me a story the other day. I mean, he was still riding a bike like just a few years ago. But that is the decision of like eating healthy, getting that movement in and making it just a part of your day.
There are also studies that show that walking actually increases your neuroplasticity. Walking is incredibly good for your brain. That's your ability to still like learn and retain and grow. And that means your brain, you know, can still expand instead of, you know, if you look at brain scans of people who are aging, who have volume loss with like dementia, that's like the opposite of what you want. That's, you know, the opposite of neuroplasticity.
So what you're saying is I should be turning on my walking pad during my accounting class?
Yes.
Okay. Now I don't feel bad about spending that money on that walking pad. But that was just one of those ways where I knew like that's a small decision I can make every day when I'm studying, because I'm a grad student. My life is school, Miss Texas, my dog. And there's just making that just tiny conscious choice, just get a few steps in while I'm reading about like buying back stocks. That's just one decision I can make every single day to just keep moving my body. And like I will say it's like that just wasn't my life 5 years ago. Even just a few years ago, I was like, I'm 20 something years old. Like I'm in the prime of my life. And I never would have been making those very conscious decisions if I wasn't working towards something that's bigger than myself. And now, because I know Miss Texas is not going to be here forever. I know that. But I've now learned so much about myself and seen myself grow that these are things I'm going to implement in my life afterwards, because I have seen how much better I feel, how much happier I am, how just even that little bit of movement every single day, whether it's a 45 minutes Pilates class or just like getting a really good walk in on the treadmill, how much that has made a difference on my mental health. And that's something I've battled with for a long time, you know? And it's funny how just that little bit of movement, that little bit of spending time out in the world, touching some grass, and just making those really healthy, conscious decisions makes a huge difference. I actually have a question for you because I'm so interested in what you do. And I think a lot of the conversation around pageants is people go, oh, well, these girls are, you know, fake. Or they go, oh, well, like, have you had any work done? And I'm going like, work done. You know, I just have a question on like the people that are coming into your practice. You know, what are you hearing from them? And have we kind of changed as a culture where it feels like, I don't know, this is your line of work, but I'm always so interested in that because plastic surgery is so, I think it's great. And I think it's incredibly normal, but I feel like still in my world, it's like, it's taboo. And it's like, well, if you've had this done, it's bad but I just want to know kind of where we are as a culture.
I think there are two camps. I think there are people who will recognize that the place for plastic surgery, and this is kind of my mindset, the place for plastic surgery is that if there is a feature of your body that falls outside of the norm to where it becomes something that might be too obvious to other people, might be distracting, or might cause really significant mental distress every day. If you have a nose that is really outside of like just the standard norm and is really eye-catching, then have a rhinoplasty. You know, don't have it to make you look extreme, and definitely you need to go to a surgeon who has a natural approach to make it suit you, suit your frame. And I think that's a really good way to approach surgery. Or a mom who's had kids and her breasts are sagging and, you know, she no longer has that nice youthful appearance and she's given up so much for her children that you want to bring her back towards like kind of what the mind sees as an average person and how an average person should present. We put a lot of stress on our bodies with our unhealthy habits, and then also just childbirth. And then also nature. A lot of facial features and body features that your brain recognizes as unattractive. What people don't understand is a lot of times they're associated with genes that don't work how they should.
Wow.
And so your brain is actually telling you not, oh, this person is ugly. It's that this person is deviating from what is a healthy genetic code.
Yeah.
And that's a really difficult and weird conversation to have because I'm certainly not saying that people who are less attractive according to somebody's standard have poor genetics, but I do not believe that beauty is subjective. There's actually very good evidence that beauty perceived by the average human being is actually the sum average of what people around them look like. And that's why when you have a feature like a really large nose or a really small chin or a really small jaw, your eye is seeing that there's something that's not normal.
Yeah.
And so I love the fact that I think I attract patients who have similar mindsets towards plastic surgery. And I don't ever intend my patients leaving my office or the operating room looking unusual, looking fake, looking plastic. I want to restore them to kind of the average, which there's a lot of beauty in average.
Yeah.
I don't personally support the camp of people who think that plastic surgery is for making people look really extreme, taking them away from natural beauty. I like to keep people still looking like who they were when they came out of the womb, and really stay true to their ethnicity and their unique characteristics. I think one of the biggest problems in the aesthetic world right now, and probably what is really, I would imagine, is very shied away from in your community, would be girls who tend to fill their faces in ways where they all start morphing into looking similar to each other. And they almost start looking like a Barbie out of a box.
Yeah.
And I think there's so much beauty lost in that. When you look around and you look at your friends, why do you think your friends are beautiful? Well, it's because there's something unique about them. Retaining some of that like natural bone structure and not trying to disguise it all with like this formula of if I see this, I feel this. I would hope that the pendulum would start swinging away from that as people start seeing that overfilling your face or making you look too unlike yourself. It's not good practice, in my opinion, as a surgeon either.
I think we're all in the beauty game. We're all in the confidence game. And it's definitely something, you know, I felt that pressure before where people, you're being judged, the sport's being judged. And people will just come up to you and say like, oh, you'd look better if you have a little bit of cheek filler. You know, I have a really round face. And you lose some of that bone structure with like really beautiful, cheeks. And I just like, I've always dealt with that feeling of like, well, is there something I'm not doing? You know, do I need to do this to win? And I'm sure a lot of people, and yeah, that's the truth. A lot of people feel that way where it's like, do I need to fix this to win? Do I need to do this to win? And there is a lot of pressure, and there's pressure for people that aren't in the pageant world either. I think it's just, this is the world we live in, and we're chronically online. We see beautiful women all the time. I can't tell you how many beautiful people I see on my TikTok all the time. And I'm going, oh, I wish like that, but I wish I looked like that, but there's filters. And you know, sometimes there just isn't that realness of like, oh yeah, like I've had this done. And I feel like there has to be some sort of transparency there, but then also like, you don't owe anybody anything. So it's a hard line to walk, but I'm in the camp of do what makes you feel good for sure. But no matter who we are, whether we're pageant girls or we're moms, we're, just single young women, you feel that pressure to whether it's either fit in or stand out enough that you feel noticed and that people pay attention to you, because it's a hard world out here, and a world where, you just feel like you're constantly competing against other people all the time.
I would encourage you to, in your appearance, in, how you take care of your face, and what surgeries you consider. I think really staying true to you is important, and never having anything done because somebody who's a non-professional recommended it to you. It's one thing if you go to a plastic surgeon and have a facial analysis and say, are there parts of my face that need to be balanced? Mm-hmm. That's one thing, but just being suggested by people, in general, like do this, do that. I think just stay true to you, because I think there's more beauty in that too. I think people recognize that uniqueness, and that goes a long way. What's beautiful about you? What makes Madison unique? What makes her? What do her jeans look like? Why is she pretty? It may be something that's technically imperfect, but for you, it might work beautifully.
Yeah. Well, my jeans look like an Irish family reunion. It's just, it's very Irish. I think it's interesting you brought that up of, you don't want to be cookie cutter. That's something I was literally talking about with my interview coach. People ask the question, what makes you different? Or, why should you be Miss Texas? Or, why should you have this job? In a sense of outside of pageantry. And for a long time, I was just like, I have no idea. I don't know what makes me different. Like, I feel pretty cookie cutter. I'm a blonde hair, blue-eyed girl from West Texas. And I have struggled with that for so long, because it feels like, well, I don't want to be cookie cutter, but I've worked hard to be cookie cutter, because that's what you want, right? And I right now have just been opening up myself and having to explore the parts of myself I haven't before, of going like, what do I really, really love about myself? And what makes me different? Like when I look at my friend group, and I'm just having to learn how to just love those parts of myself and really just display that openly in ways that I haven't before. And I do that. Like I love having people over, and I love throwing a little dinner party and having people in my home. And that's something that makes me very different from my friends. My friends are like, we want to not do that. But just having that very arms wide open mentality, like give you the shirt off my back. Yes. Like anything you want, please, you have access to it. Like that's something I've hid for a long time. And I want to show that, because that is something that makes me different, but it is hard when you're going, I feel like, I think for me, it's just been exploring, getting deeper with myself than I haven't before, because I've been scared to show that. It's hard to just share your life openly.
I think life experiences too, as you'll collect them as you get older, and you'll realize that you're a sum of what you've been through and the story that you have to share.
Yeah.
And how you overcome those struggles. And I think that's what makes everybody unique, is everything that you've been through, how you responded to it, and then how you open yourself to others. My favorite type of person, I think, is that just very open-hearted, open-handed person. What I have is yours, and I think it's just so special. I think I certainly have a few of those people in my life. That's just a very, very special way to be.
Yeah, it's something I've had to learn to love about myself, and just go at it openly and be proud of who I am. I think for most of my life, I felt like who I was too intimidating, or, it just felt like too much. I think that's the best word. And I'm sure a lot of young women feel that way, where it's like, I'm just too much. I'm too much to handle. People don't want to date me. I'm just too much. I ask for too much. And ask for too much, be too much. Like the people that love you.
Do you have any perspective on this?
We laugh because we have this conversation quite a bit.
Oh my gosh.
I can relate completely. Yeah. You have a vibrant personality. You're confident, right?
Yeah.
And I dealt with that in my life as well. And so, what are some ways that have helped you decide to be like, I'm going to own who I am and be authentic in that, and have no shame or guilt about that?
Ooh.
For other girls who may be dealing with the same thing.
Therapy. That's, I think the first part of it is I really had to dive deep into my life and realize I was really ashamed of who I was. And just not for any reason except the world had told me that I was too much. And I felt unlovable and felt like I was, just too intimidating or too much or too loud. And I hid a lot of that part of myself to make myself digestible to other people. And it took working with a really good therapist and her just going, you have to release the shame you feel about yourself and the decisions you've made for your life and just everything. She goes, you haven't done anything wrong. You're good. And I just remember feeling that way for most of it. I just felt like I was doing it all wrong. And so, yeah, definitely good therapy. But also, I think for me, realizing that I had to open up was with my friend group. I have a great friend group. They're my sorority sisters from college. And what's funny is we actually do all look like Barbies. We look the exact same, which is interesting. We're all blonde hair, blue eyes, but like very different personalities. And they are the most amazing women. And when you spend your time around amazing people, you are the reflection of the people around you. And I wanted to be better. I wanted to be a good friend. I wanted to be somebody that people wanted to be around. And I also realized that the people who are going to want to be around me are the people who love me 100%. And you kind of have to explore that sometimes and have to look at your relationships and go, does this person actually really love me? Like at your worst, you're in the floor of your apartment crying because your ex posted a picture with the new girl and you don't feel like you're going to get over it. Or when you lose your job, I dealt with that this last year. I lost my job and I was crushed, but I had people around me who just rallied around me and were so 100% about me and were willing to sit there through the long nights, through all of the rejection, and celebrate with me at the end. I think when you surround yourself with good people who make you want to be better and who love you for you, complete change. And I felt that in my own life because I finally had the friends I had wanted my entire life, and I wanted to be better for them. And I needed to accept the fact that they love me 100%, and I just have to be myself 100%. That's beautiful. I love them. Shout out to my friend group. They really have pushed me in so many ways. I will say this, women are hungry for community. We are. Mm-hmm. And when you graduate from college, it is not easy to find that. And that was one of the reasons why I started competing in pageants again, is because I was hungry for really, really good people. I had just moved to Dallas. It was 2021. I had previously been in Kansas City, and I had just broken up with my college boyfriend. So I was messy. And I didn't want to be messy forever. I didn't want to be in this really dark place forever. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to do this. I know that the women here are just astounding, and they are breaking barriers, and they are people who just are 100% themselves and 100% about what they do. And that's why I decided to compete, is because I wanted that community, but it's so hard to find that. And when you find it, you want to hold on to it very, very tight. Because I think as women, we just innately, we want our people, and we want to be surrounded with good people. I think my favorite things in the world are when I'm sitting around the coffee table, or, just sitting around the table with my mom, my grandmother, and my great grandmother. And we're just like sitting there talking. Like, that's so valuable. It doesn't matter if it's your friends, your cousins, the women in your church group, your coworkers. Like, we just need people. And I always encourage women, especially who are wanting to join pageants, that this is some of the best place to find community and to find your forever friends, find those bridesmaids, because you turn into fast friends pretty quick in those dressing rooms. And when you're living that experience of you're doing something that people don't understand, you're the only people who get it. And I think that for me, just taking that leap and saying, this is what I want and I'm going to go find it, and that being community, changed everything for me. And I'm very thankful for that decision, but we're so hungry for it. And sometimes it's so hard to find it. And I think that's why podcasts like this, and women who are just rallying around, whether it's like the Hot Girl Walking Club here in Dallas, people who are doing, just mixers, like, that's the best stuff. And I just always encourage people to join those, but then start your own. Like, don't be scared if like 5 people come, because that's a routine that you start. That's 5 people that, you just start sharing life with. So I'm really I think y'all are doing just a good work with this. And I think you have such a platform to connect women and to allow them to feel like they have community and share a story.
So important. We talk about how community is so impactful, and it's needed, and it's important.
You are a single puzzle piece, but your community is all the other puzzle pieces. And when you have those other puzzle pieces, you create a really, really beautiful picture.
And it's so important to surround yourself with people who you aspire to be like.
Yes.
Or have like gifts and traits that you may not have, but you want to develop, and to always better yourself. Because you will always elevate yourself or bring yourself down by the people that you're surrounding yourself with, including who you date too.
Yes. Yeah. I think that was something I had to learn post-grad. Dating is weird in Dallas.
Tell us about that, because I met my husband.
I know y'all are both married.
Well, I met my husband within 30 days of moving to Dallas. And so I, thank God, have not had to date in Dallas. But tell us
you didn't have to
dating in Dallas.
You didn't have to suffer on Hinge.
I didn't.
So I have a longtime boyfriend, and I met him within 3 months of moving to Dallas. Dating is hard, number one. And in Dallas, it is hard too. It's a city for the boys. The people you date are a reflection of who you are and how much you love yourself, which is a tough pill to swallow. I think I dealt with that. I truly believe. I don't think I know that. In college, I picked some people, whether it was just to talk to hang out with, they liked me, that probably weren't just 100% just the right person, because I didn't feel like I was 100% the right person either. And I was growing so much. And Cole, my partner, my boyfriend of 2.5 years, he's one of those people, and Mary Catherine and I have talked about this a lot. He's just a person who is so strong in their own moral code and very led by that moral compass, and isn't really swayed often. And I love that about him. I love that he's very true in his values, and he knows what he believes in, and he is 100% about it. And that's something I wanted in my own life. I wanted to be able to just be led that way and not be led astray by people who, just didn't value me or didn't hold those same values for the sake of being liked or being accepted. When you have that partner that brings brings the best out in you. And I think with Cole, yeah, for sure, I want to be way better as a person, as a partner, because he is such a good person. And he's somebody that I admire outside of our relationship, outside of being boyfriend and girlfriend. I admire him as a person. And I think you have to pick that. It is so easy to fall in line with the person that just gives you enough attention and that makes you feel really pretty. We're girls. We want to feel that. But I feel like sometimes that's blinded me. The most innate desire is to be wanted and to receive love, but to give love. But you have to have somebody that's going to give you the right kind of love. And I feel like with Cole, we've had an interesting process of getting there, but it's because it's all been led with the fact of, my life is better with you in it, because we have bettered each other, and we've pushed each other, in outside of our own like dating bounds. I've definitely pushed his buttons a lot, but we've all done it with love, and we've done it with the idea. And it's not a rare idea, but the idea of like, you're dating to marry. And if it's not somebody you want to spend the rest of your life with, like, don't try to fight for it. Right. And that's what I've had to learn is, if it's not somebody that you don't want to marry and come home to every day and raise your children and probably parent a dog with, a puppy. We have a 2-year-old Archie. He's a Havapoo, and raising a puppy about broke me. But who is that person that's going to stand by you?
I think that's so important. A friend of mine, a really good friend of mine, probably 15 years ago, told me once, she said, when you date somebody who is wrong for you and isn't living up to the standard of the person that you should really be with, you can't make the relationship better because of who you are, because it's going to be a reflection of who they are. So she was like, it's like casting pearls before swine. You may be putting out pearls and you may be offering pearls in the relationship, but what they do is a reflection of their own character, their own moral compass. And no matter what you do, they're going to treat you according to what their moral code is. And
oh my gosh, of course.
Even if you're faithful and you're loyal and you're the best girlfriend or the best partner, they don't return that unless that's who they are. And that was a really hard lesson for me to learn, because you just think, if I'm a good person and I'm a good partner, then they'll reciprocate that.
No.
But it's about who they are. And speaking to what you said about him being very unwavering, that's something that I saw modeled in my dad growing up. I've never seen my dad go against what his moral code is. So I've never seen him, if he thinks that something is right to do, he would do it. Even if he was wrong. But if he thought something was wrong, he wouldn't do it. And then, years later, I found that in my husband. I would say at the end of the day, what's more important than any feeling, any butterflies, because they are there for sure, but they come and go. But the most important thing is being with somebody that has such self-respect and self-integrity that you never have to worry about them compromising your relationship because of who they are. Not because of you or because you're the best partner ever, or you're fulfilling their needs or doing what they want, but because even in the hardest of times, and when maybe they don't even like you that day, they're not going to go against their own code of ethics. Find that in a man. I mean, you just hold on to that.
Yeah. And I think there's so much pressure as a young woman, especially in Texas, it's like, you got to get married and you got to keep up with the Joneses. And my best advice to young women in dating, I'm not a dating guru, I'm not an expert, is that the right person will be worth the wait. It will be worth all the heartbreak, and that rushing into anything is not good. And I've seen it, and I've been that girl too, where I've sat there and cried and been like, why am I not engaged? And I look back and I was like, I was 21. I was literally a child. I should not have been worried about getting married. I should have, just been instead going, who is the person I want to be? And who is the person that is going to be the best for this new woman, this person that is 100% myself, and just really exploring that instead of going, if I don't get married, I'm going to throw up all of my, you're looking at Facebook and you're looking at, who really looks at Facebook? You're looking at Facebook and Instagram and you're going, but it's easy to scroll and go, oh my gosh, all my friends are getting married and they're having kids and they're getting all of these really good jobs and I'm a failure. And we've talked so much about this, just kind of in my own personal story, is it is hard to be that person who's supporting people during that time. And especially when you feel that rush, this rush of like, I've got to do all these things to keep up. And that's something I've battled with. And I've always asked the question to many other female mentors of, how do you fight against the timeline? How do you in the back of your brain as a successful woman, mother, parent, how do you battle the timeline? It feels like at a certain age, it's like, well, I'm not married. Like, what am I going to do? Like, I gotta do this. Everybody's doing it.
In short, I would say, as somebody who met their husband after the age of 30, I think I was 31 when we met, or maybe 30, everything that I went through or dated or even just friend relationships and everything that I learned through my personal growth by having relationships with other people over the course of those years, if looking back now, I would have never wanted to have stopped at any of those time points and have settled down, because there was so much growth happening that in retrospect, I was absolutely not ready for the right man. I was ready for the wrong man for sure early on.
Same.
Because let me tell you, I probably wasn't attracted to good character qualities. I was attracted to personality and the surface level things of do we fit? And then through learning about, even in medical school, to be honest with you, I learned a lot about human beings when I was studying psychiatry in medical school. Because I would read, I go, oh, here are some behavior patterns in people that are really big red flags. Oh, this is really toxic. Oh, this is actually a pattern I can look out for that's repeatable in humans. And I wouldn't trade any of that time. And my husband, in parallel, was also learning and growing so much. And I don't think either one of us, our lives would look so completely different if we had stopped and stayed stunted at one of those previous time points. And it's not time lost, because I had friends who were getting married and then having kids and then getting divorced because they made those wrong decisions. And there's so much redemption for them too. I mean, a lot of them now have beautiful second marriages, but I just tried to hold on to whatever the positive was. And the positive for me was, well, I didn't have to go through that first divorce, and I didn't have to go through that first marriage. And I've learned some lessons while still waiting for my partner. And then when I met my partner, I will honestly say, I think I kind of made a decision in a way that was very different from my previous approaches to dating. I consciously thought about his character qualities and what he was showing me about his lifestyle and his ethics and his very strong sense of self, which attracted me, because I had seen that I felt like the root of all evil in previous relationships was insecurity, and then failure to stay true to your morals or ethics because of your insecurity. And I saw good qualities in him, and instead of just viewing it as one more random person to date or somebody to go out with and then not pursue because of this or because of that, I really thought about his qualities and what that would mean for my happiness in a home. Your peace at home is more important than anything. Being able to come home and that be a place of peace, and also have a partner that when they walk out of the door in the morning, you don't have to worry about anything.
So you met your husband later. When did you meet yours? In college? Or here in Dallas?
When I was working in medical device sales. We dated 3 years.
So how did y'all support your friends during that time?
I had a lot of friends getting married early on. Being from Tennessee,
Bovals.
And something I had to remind myself over and over is not to compare. Comparison is a thief of joy. And really just learning to celebrate my friends where they are and support them. But also know that even though my path is different, it's still beautiful in its own way. I went through this season, I think I've told Lindsay this, that for a season of my life, I intentionally, every morning when I was doing my quiet time, I would write down 5 things I was thankful for that morning. And it really shifted my focus from the very beginning of the day to the positive and beautiful things going on in my life. And it completely changed my perspective for the whole day. And it kind of kept me in the line of not looking over here on my phone, of wow, these are such great things going on in my life, and let's celebrate that. But then also, let's celebrate my friends, because they're having a beautiful moment, but it doesn't have to look the exact same. And so that was something that really was helpful for me. I think it's just the comparison aspect.
Yeah.
I think it's always important to be happy for your friends no matter what they're going through anyway, because everybody's going to have their moment and everybody's going to have their hardship, and it's important to be there for all of them. My sister-in-law, who I'm very close with, she's like a sister to me. She would always laugh at me because all my friends would be getting married, and then she'd be like, I'm just Lindsay, the unattainable, like won't ever be in a relationship, like refuses to settle down, like can't catch me like actually saying I'm somebody's girlfriend, because I was so averse to it. And for the longest time, I struggled a little bit because my friends who were settling down and who were getting married, I supported them fully. I was so excited for them. I was like very happy for them. But I had some self-doubt because some of my girlfriends who I loved deeply and respected their opinion would say, I think there's something wrong with you because you're too picky, or you don't date enough, or you don't give enough guys a chance. And they would try to convince me to like give somebody who a chance who I knew wasn't right for me, because they felt like they were giving me good advice, because they saw my different timeline as being like I was broken maybe because I wasn't settling down. But it's just that I had different goals, I had different focuses, and I think we're all on a different developmental timeline emotionally. And I don't think I was developmentally there and ready for a relationship at a younger age. Granted, I had the whole academic focus, so I was like always focusing on a test, or always focusing on, my master's or medical school or residency. And so that was like my excuse to not be in a relationship really. But realistically, I think I had a whole lot to learn about how relationships work. And it wasn't until I think I had matured in that I was ready to be with somebody.
Yeah.
And my biggest advice is, it's like always come back to the same thing. Trust your gut. If your friends are telling you maybe there's something wrong with you, maybe you need to change, if you at your core feel like you're making the right decisions, even though you're on a different timeline, stick to that and trust you're in like that peace that you get with those decisions. Because anytime that I did something because I felt like I was doing it to make other people happy, or Lindsay, you should date that guy or go out with him because, why aren't you? And he is the cutest one we know, or he is like this, or he is that, or he has these qualities, and like, you should be dating people like this. And I would always regret it. It's just stay true to your gut. Don't second guess it. And don't go out with the wrong people for the wrong reason because you feel like if it's not happening, like you have to force it to happen.
If their sense of humor isn't match yours, like that should be the first marker. It's like, oh, this isn't going to work.
Yes.
I've always heard, beauty fades, like humor's forever. So you want to have somebody that's going to make you laugh for a lifetime, because we're all going to look like leather couches one day. We're all going to be like in our walkers, and they're not going to be the 25-year-old guy.
Lindsay Texarkana.
Exactly.
No. Yeah. Lindsay, I think I'm hoping by like when I'm like 70 and I'm like really in my prime, I don't know, maybe like a Christy. I feel like I want to look like Christy Brinkley.
Oh, that's a good goal.
I love Christy Brinkley, and what's
favor
funny.
her anyway.
That's funny you say that, because my grandmother says that all the time. My Mimi, when we're pageants, you kind of have to have a brand and a look. We're always making my look like Christy Brinkley. It's glamorous but attainable, and
a little bit of girl next door, which fits with the whole Texas vibe.
Yeah, I would say I don't know if I'm the girl next door. I feel like I'm the girl across the street where you're looking at your window and you're going, what is she doing? What did she just buy from Facebook Marketplace? Honey, come see what she's dragging into her apartment.
But she's doing it confidently.
Oh, no. Oh, my gosh. I'm a bag lady, and I always have like my arms full of something. So I never am doing anything gracefully, like coming into my apartment. In fact, I look kind of like a Seinfeld skit or something, just like just huffing. But I think that just comes from, I just accumulate a lot of stuff as a grad student, as somebody who's competing in pageants, and I'm always, there's always something that I'm bringing to the house. And as a Facebook Marketplace fiend, I need to take that off of my phone, because I'm starting to bid on things that I don't need. I'm like, oh my gosh, this bone inlay secretary desk. Like, I don't know where to put this, but I really need this.
Cool.
And I'm not in the place to move it. Number one, I drive a Buick. And secondly, I'm not very strong. I'm not strong enough to be like going and doing that myself. But yeah, Facebook Marketplace is kind of my downfall. It's
There are worse downfalls.
It's like an every night. So like I'll be sitting there up in my bed. I've done my skincare routine. I've been sleeping in this thing called an overnight blowout to hold my hair. So I've got like the silk skirt and I'm in my silk PJs. And you see me and I'm on my phone and I'm like, ooh, I'm like,
so glam.
Look at this Ballard Designs runner for $250. Wow, that's a steal.
I'm just visualizing this.
And I'm like, where can I put this in my house? And sometimes I will get up in the middle of the night and I will measure my apartment. I will bust out that measuring tape and I'm like, okay, I have like 48 inches to use. Okay, will this fit?
We got this. Yeah.
I'm always on a side quest. I have to stay pretty busy. I think that what's that say? Idle hands are the devil's work. Well, my hands and my brain and my body are so busy, the devil can't get a hold of me. I am measuring the living room at 2 a.m. The devil can't have me. I'm busy doing a project.
So you're in business school? Is that MBA at SMU?
Yes, I'm in the Cox School of Business. Yeah, about to pull out my hair. I love it though.
How did you decide on business school? What led you to that?
So I have an agriculture degree from Texas A&M, and it was so perfect for me at that time. I love the ag school at A&M, and I had a scholarship to go pursue an ag degree. So I was like, that's perfect. But I got into the real world. I joined the workforce, and I was working for an office furniture company, and I was working on one of the sales teams, and I was realizing there was so much I didn't know about business. I know sales, you're not really in the nitty gritty of, what's going on in accounting, but I was dealing with customer finance issues. They're the ones calling me and yelling at me as why they got a random invoice. So I really started realizing like there's so much I don't know and so much I want to learn because I don't want to be in a sales role forever. I don't want to be, cold calling people all the time. That's not what I want to do. I want to be in a leadership position. I want to ultimately be a fixer. I'm naturally a fixer, and apparently a project doer. And I like leaving people and projects better than I found them. And I knew that there was a lot I was lacking educationally. And so after my first year at Miss Texas, I'd gotten a little bit of scholarship money and I paid toward my student loans, which is really nice. And I knew no matter what was going to happen at Miss Texas, that I was probably going to walk away with some scholarship money. And that's the beauty of, the Miss Texas org and the Mrs. America opportunity is that it's a scholarship pageant. And for most of that time of being like, I'm going to apply to business school, people would look at me and be like, why do you want to apply to business school? You work in a sales role. Or they'd be like, you should just marry somebody with an MBA. And that to me, when you tell me I can't do something, I'm going to do it. So in my brain, I'm going, okay, well then I'm going to get into the best program that I can for what I want to do. And I wanted to do my MBA and focus in real estate. And SMU was the best place to do it. And I applied and I'm in the MBA program. And that, that decision came from the fact that I don't want to be in a business, in a meeting, in a boardroom, even in a conversation with anybody and not know what's going on. Mm-hmm. I'm a little nosy in that regard. I like to know what's going on, and
I think you're downplaying yourself and your intelligence, as women often do, because I wouldn't call that nosy. I would call that, I think you're a shark. I think you are intelligent. I think you're making decisions that are going to set you up for success.
Thank you, yeah.
And I think you should own that.
Okay, so I got an MBA because I want to fix things. And I have so many opinions that have to be put out into the world. But I think that, you with a master's degree, like you have to be prepared. Like it is a big investment, and not just monetarily, but time. But I'm really thankful this fall semester, I got a 4.0 and I got to go to school for free thanks to Miss Texas. I won, I think about $15,000 with my first runner-up scholarship and the scholarships I had applied for and the prelim awards that I had won. That was a full semester. It was awesome. And I think that allowed me to be able to go to school and just really dive in because I wasn't worried about how much debt I had taken out. And I got to really excel that semester, but it is such a big commitment monetarily and time. I'm in a part-time program that is primarily online, but I'll be able to take some in-person courses toward the end of my degree plan. It's still a lot. The work is still a lot. It's not fun. It's a Friday night, or I would say a Thursday night. Friday, I do try to have everything done by the weekend so I can breathe. It's Thursday night. You've just had class till 8:00 and you're just I've looked at Excel spreadsheets and done God knows how many present value formulas. There is no way. I can't go out. I can't. It's hard. I love spending time with my boyfriend, but there's many times I have to be not today. My brain, no worky, nothing's happening up here. I have just ingested a lot of information and I've got to study and I've got a final this week. It's hard saying no to the people you love when you are grinding. And I think that also goes with Miss Texas too, because there are some weekends I can't go do stuff with my friends because I'm at an appearance. And I'll go home and spend some time with my family and really prepare there, kind of separate myself from my world here and really dive in. It is hard saying no, but in my mind, I've really had to drive it home of we're working towards something really big right now, and saying no to a few get-togethers or just a few things your friends doing, or maybe having to set a boundary and saying we can't hang out tonight. We can't, maybe we can go out, on a date tomorrow night, whatever that is. That's all because I'm understanding I'm working towards something really big, and the people in my life will be okay with me setting that boundary because they know that this is important to me. And that at the end of all of this, I will have more free time. We just gotta grind right now. I never thought that I would be going to grad school, much less business school. I wanted to work in public policy in college. That was my plan. I either wanted to be a lobbyist, or I wanted to work somewhere in ag legislation because I have an ag degree. So going to business school and getting an MBA and doing accounting, never thought I would be doing it. But I will say this, I'll toot my horn for a little bit. I'm really proud of myself for taking a step out of my own norm. And I think what has been set for me as a person, or just maybe in my personality, and doing something that is outside of that and expanding my knowledge, because I'm not comfortable being that person that doesn't understand. I want to be that person that is not only knowledgeable, but can explain it to anybody and will be of value to, whatever organization I end up in. I've taken a step back in my career-wise to really focus on Miss Texas and focus on school. And it's been great because I've gotten to explore maybe what I actually really want to do and really challenge myself to say yes to opportunities or jobs or industries that I would not have said yes to because I was too scared. I felt like I wasn't qualified enough, or just oh, well, that's not me. I'm too much. I'm too sweet, whatever excuse I made for myself. I'm not comfortable making excuses anymore. And I think being an MBA student has really taught me that I'm just not comfortable doing what everybody thinks I should do and doing what I want to do. So I've said yes to spending more time networking with, within the real estate industry and in commercial real estate, spending time doing coffees and lunches with experts and learning something completely different. I've said yes to a lot. I was able to go to LA with the Folsom Institute of Real Estate for real estate. I got to go to LA for the Urban Land Institute big conference that they do. They do two a year. And I got to go to LA and I learned a lot. I got to network with some wonderful people, meet some other kids, and I will say adults. We're all adults in the MBA program, and saying yes to my classmates. So study groups, we'll go to dinner, we'll make plans together because we are in the same world. So I've made a whole new group of friends. So there's been some yeses. It's just been different. And that has expanded my world in ways that I can't even explain. But so yeah, there's been some no's. There's been some, well, no, I can't do that. But there's been a lot of yeses that have been just as beneficial. And I feel like the biggest thing that has changed, since setting those boundaries and since kind of making a complete life change. I lost my job back in the fall and, took another job. It just, at the time it wasn't the right fit because I was so focused on Miss Texas, and I'm that person. I want to give 100% in everything I do. it was hard to walk away from that because I think my pride was like, well, you're working a full-time job, you're going to school, you're competing for Miss Texas, like you're a boss, like nobody can touch you. But the truth is I was losing my hair and I was really struggling. And the proudest yes I think I've said is just saying yes to myself and saying yes to what I want. And it's hard. It's hard going, okay, well, I'm going to have to leave my job and putting my pride away, saying yes to, the people that are really, really good for me, saying yes to my schooling. You have to say yes to what is right there and what is so important, and really kind of siphon the outside forces that are really, I don't want to say taking you down a notch, but just really bringing you down and that don't fulfill you. I'm very thankful for all kind of the heartbreak that I've endured over the last year because it's made me a better person. It's challenged me a lot. And it's allowed me to say yes to myself because I think I was saying yes to everybody else and not myself. And I think as women, we do that. I'm a natural people pleaser. And not everybody's a people pleaser, but I am to the extreme. I want to make people happy. I want to say yes. I want to be there. But I will also run myself ragged. And I've really challenged myself over, the last few months to not run myself ragged and to be present in my life and where I'm at now. And so, yeah, that means lots of no's, but that's also lots of yeses. Time is precious. It's so valuable. It's the most valuable thing that we have, and you want to use it wisely. So don't waste it on people that don't make you happy. Same with your partner. If your partner's not filling up your bucket, they're not the person you need to be around.
So what's next for you on your horizon?
So I have spring meeting this coming weekend, and that's the first time we'll all see each other. And I'm excited. I think our class is pretty young. There's some, or not young, but there's some newer girls. And I'm excited to meet all of them. There's lots of people I haven't met. And it is fun. It is fun to get dressed up and look cute and go to the red dinner. But I'm excited to spend time with everybody. And then it'll be, buckling down, and I have finals coming up too, buckling down in school and preparing my summer semester, but also Miss Texas at the same time. So trying to balance my finance class with that last little bit of prep. So it'll be a lot of spending time in the gym, a lot of doing interview prep, singing my song all the time.
So your talent is singing?
I'm a singer, yes. My whole family are singers. We're all musicians, so it's very natural for me to sing. It's probably the most natural thing I've ever done, and I think that's why I love to sing, is because it's just, when I sing, it's like my heart is like pouring out on stage, and I feel like people get to see me. And then after Miss Texas, depending on how it goes, I might be traveling the state and getting to share my platform Generation Zero with, from kindergartners up to college age, even to adults. One thing I really want to do is spend a lot of time on college campuses and really open up the conversation about binge drinking on college campuses, and especially with sorority women, because I'm a sorority woman, Kappa Delta forever. What did I need at 18 to 21? I really wanted somebody to make me feel valued, or to help me, understand my value and encourage me. And that's exactly what I want to do in sororities and on college campuses, is really support young women who are in that time where everything is crazy. So hopefully I'll be getting to do that. That's ultimately what I really, really want to be doing. But if that doesn't happen, I'm going to take some more classes. I'm probably going to start the job hunt. Actually, I'm definitely going to start the job hunt. Paycheck is fun. Getting a paycheck is fun. And, deciding if that's something that I want to pursue again. I'm getting to that point in my life where competing is so wonderful and has been so valuable to who I am as a person and how it has shaped me. But yeah, your life gets put on hold a little bit. There's some things I can't say yes to and some plans I can't make, and that's okay, because I understand that what I'm working toward is greater than myself. But I'm hoping this year is the year. 3 times a charm. 3rd time's a charm.
I hope so too. I think your platform is so incredible.
Thank you.
You're so inspiring, and it would be so cool to have you on that circuit, spreading who you are and spreading the message that you have, because I think it's so important and it's so beautiful.
It would be fun to come back as Miss Texas, back to the podcast, and really talk about just what that looks like. I think people don't realize what the job of Miss Texas actually entails and what a day-to-day looks like. And I'd love to come back and share that and open that up to a bunch of people. One thing I really would like to do, not just as Miss Texas, but as Miss Texarkana, is really give a real life view to what being Miss Texas or being a title holder looks like. Like, it's not all crowns and gowns all the time. It's, it's a lot of inner work. It's a lot of hard days, lots of long days, and lots of days where sometimes people are sharing very vulnerable things with you. I've done school programs. I did one at Coppell High School last year, and it always surprises me when a high school kid or a junior high age kid, they're getting young. They look younger and younger. I don't know. They feel like such kids now, but at that age where they're coming up to you and you go, thank you so much. Like, I just lost a family member to this. Or in high school, I mean, you can come into high schools and they go, I've lost my friend to this. It's so close already. So people are often bearing very valuable, very vulnerable things to you because you're speaking about something that is so valuable to them and to their story. And they feel validated and heard with your message. And you have to work through that sometimes. It is hard to bear the weight of everybody else. And I'm naturally a very empathetic person. And so I feel that even when an offender, will come up to me. I had this happen one time. She was my age. She was young, and it was a first time offender panel. And she just comes up to me with big tears in her eyes. And she goes, I remember Carly. I remember she was like, I can't remember if she was going to Blinn or A&M at the time. She goes, I remember that happening. And she goes, I'm so sorry for your loss. She goes, her story has changed my mind. And she goes, I'm never going to do this again. I did cry in my car in the Dallas courthouse parking lot after that. But I know it wasn't tears because I was sad about Carly. It was tears because the impact of Carly's story and how I knew that what I was doing was right. This God-given gift, what I was doing was right. Like this is what I was meant for. It's a rare occurrence sometimes when people really come up to you and just lay it out, but it's so special. And it keeps me going in times where I'm going, what am I doing this for? This is a weird hobby. Like, I could be doing other things. I constantly go back to what I'm doing is valuable, and not just to other people, but to me in my life. Mm-hmm. And I just look back at the girl I was 5 years ago and remind myself that I would not be in this position if it wasn't for this. It wasn't for the grief I endured, the mistakes I've made, and the failures I've lived. Without all of that, like, I wouldn't be who I am today. Getting plugged in with the community, whether that is AA or any other support group, is really important.
Think about how many people can be reached in their homes over TikTok.
Of course.
By following somebody like you on TikTok, on Instagram, on social platforms, so that they can look at you and be like, here's somebody who I want to be like. Here's somebody who has a message. And you're making it cool to have these healthy relationships with alcohol.
And that's exactly why I post those, because, when you see somebody like me, talking about mocktails, you're probably, your first thought is like, oh, well, why is she talking about this? But then when you hear my story and hear, me talking about Carly, and just coming from a very supportive place, and not a place that shames people who are struggling or isolates them. Like, my content is not just for people who are interested in living a sober lifestyle. It's for everybody, because I like to make people laugh. It's still, I want it to still be fun because I want everybody to be receptive to it. And I don't want to put myself in a box or put that content in a box.
Because also, not everybody has to be completely zero alcohol.
Oh, no. Yeah.
But just to have that narrative open.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
That it's also cool to not use alcohol if it's a negative influence in your life.
Yeah.
Or it's also cool to just drink it respectfully and understanding what it has the capacity to do, and in moderation.
Oh my gosh, of course. And you just have to model it. People don't realize this, but like, modeling that starts very early. One of the biggest statistics is that, teens, they're not necessarily as influenced by their friends or influenced by their parents when it comes to that relationship with alcohol. And there is really a way for people to model that. I try to model that with my platform and with my content and just the information and resources that I share. But one thing I always tell people is that, you have the opportunity to model it to other people, and people are watching you at all times. And when people watch you and they see that, you have a healthy relationship with it, you're making healthy decisions about it, about your usage, and that you're able to say no. You have that right from, not necessarily right from wrong, but just that strong sense of like, I've got stuff to do. I'm not going to do this. Just being really secure in that decision, I think, is the best word. Exactly. That is really, we just have to live that out and show that to people. We are our own biggest models of that relationship. Our friends see it when we go to brunch. Our family sees it when we're at an event. We can really, really model that just by being very open with it and living that healthy lifestyle. But with all of my content, like I said, I just want to remove the shame from it and offer people resources. And it's been really fun. I've started working with Mixology as one of their brand ambassadors. And
that's Mixology.
Mixology.
I'm assuming this is like a female.
It's a female-run business. Yes.
Business. Cool.
Yes. And the mocktails are great, and it's really allowed me to expand that to people who would have never ever thought about that. I can't tell you how many people have been in my DMs and going like, how do I get this? Where can I buy this from? Same with like the non-alcoholic wine options. People I haven't talked to in a while, reaching out and going, oh, I've been wanting to try one. Like, what do you like?
We were just talking about Lewis Hamilton, my favorite F1 driver.
Yeah.
I believe he's vegan. Really healthy guy, like super dedicated. He even put his dog on a vegan diet because his dog had some airway issues and improved his dog's breathing. Wow. But he is such like this beautiful mindset of like, he has a tattoo, I think that's like God is love, like on his neck. He's just like, he has a really big message and a really big platform, and he's such a beautiful person. And he just came out with a non-alcoholic agave liquor.
I want to try that.
So you can basically sub it for anything that you would put tequila in.
Oh, I love a spicy marg. So I'm going to have to try that. Yes. There's so many things that are on the market now. Some that have the hemp-derived THC that was passed in the 2018 Farm Bill. That has been beneficial for people. Adaptogens, making, and even integrating, I don't want to say chemicals is not the right word, but people have patented technology where it's like the afterglow technology to where it's like you can kind of like feel the warmth and the quote burn, but there's not any alcohol in it. Cool. So if anybody were to take a drink of your drink, they would be like, whoa, there's so many cool things that people are patenting and doing that, like I said, we just didn't have this 10 years ago.
No, we definitely only had O'Doul's.
I've never had no duels, but
Neither have I.
But I have like great recommendations, and I'm always willing to share them with people because you don't know what people are going through, but like I said, just removing the shame and just being open and saying like, this is what I like this one's really good.
Well, tell people how to find you on TikTok and on Instagram.
Okay. So my Instagram and my TikTok are the same handle. My personal ones, it's Madison C. Matlock. And that's for TikTok and Instagram. And my Texarkana is Miss Texarkana TX. So I'll be sure to share that so y'all can share it, because my Miss Texarkana, that's where I do talk a lot about Alcohol Awareness Month. That's April. May, I'm really going to dive into Mental Health Awareness Month and really talking about that. And that's something I really haven't talked about before. And my own struggles, truly my own struggles with my own mental health and being diagnosed with ADHD in college, and how learning about my brain and learning how to work with my brain and body, how that has opened my life up so much and I think has really changed my mental health. So things like that, and talking about that and how it ties into drunk driving prevention. I get more into the weeds in there, but my personal one, all the mocktail videos are there too. But you can see me and my friends and see kind of, just a real life look into who I am. I'm trying to be better about posting things that aren't always perfect, not the best picture, and posting things that are silly and more attuned to who I am as a person and less of like, look how perfect I am. I've never done anything awful ever. And I am perfect all the time. I'm trying to stray away from that and really just use my social media as a way to spread joy and light and just make people laugh and just be myself.
And you do that.
Thank you. I'm really, that was one of my goals this year, is to really make my social media so much more who I am and less of like putting this perfect person out into the world. I'm having to get comfortable sharing some things and sharing some pictures that are a little more fun and not as like perfectly staged.
Do you ever do unfiltered photos?
Some, if they're really good, high quality. With the content creation that I've done through the mocktails and through Mixology, I've really gotten into more content creation. The iPhones are getting so much more advanced. Like, yeah, some don't need a filter because the light was banging. Like, it was great.
You look filtered in real life, so I can't imagine you even need a filter ever.
And I'm happy to give all my makeup secrets and skincare secrets. We were talking about it earlier that I wanted to be a makeup artist growing up. And I grew up in that time of like all of the YouTube beauty gurus, and I would follow them. And I would sit in my little room in Lamesa, Texas. It was a Tiffany blue room because that was I had a big breakfast at Tiffany's with the Tiffany blue walls. And I'd sit in my room and I would like practice like Marilyn Monroe makeup. And my parents got me a Kevin Kwan book one year. Yeah. That's why I love makeup.
I always said growing up, I was like, I'm either going to be a surgeon or a makeup artist.
Two very different worlds.
But still, it was like the study of like, I don't know, like the facial anatomy and then how to like bring that out with like makeup and then how to transform people into looking like completely different people too. It was just very cool.
Color theory, how to bring out your natural features, how to match to people's certain coloring. Gosh, that to me is super interesting. And we've talked about, we're in the confidence game, we're in the beauty game, and it is a self-esteem industry. And I love when people, when you're doing their makeup, you help your friend and they go, oh my gosh, like, I love this. Thank you so much. And they feel good. They're walking around the rooftop at HD Supply Co. and they feel good. That is so gratifying to me. And I think that's one, we were talking about running a business. If I was going to run a business, it would be something like that, because that is what fills my bucket up, is making people feel good. And
that reminds me of somebody else's business.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
Our whole mission.
That's your whole mission. Yeah. And because I think our world tells us that we have to tear each other down and gatekeep what makes us beautiful and special. But the best thing, I think one of the most important things we can do as women is open that up and just share that. Like, we're not in competition with each other. No. Like, let's just empower each other. And, you don't have to gatekeep that one lip gloss that's in your purse. If your friend likes it, share it with them. That's just mean. But I think that could be a potential career area, or maybe just a passion that I dive into. But so the powder that I use is the Huda Beauty Easy Bake, both the pressed powder and the loose powder, and it will filter your face. Nothing will move. Cool. I know I'll have to drop all my recommendations. I don't have a like to know just yet, but maybe if this whole mocktail and content creation blows up, I will, and I can dive into there. But that's something that I love. So maybe I'll start doing some makeup. Like I said, nothing is forever, and life changes. Like, we always get asked the question a lot as very determined, ambitious pageant girls, or just ambitious women in general. Where do you want to be in 10 years? Where do you want to be in 5 years? And I'm like, I don't know. I just want to be happy. I want to be doing what makes me happy. And I don't really know what that fully entails yet. Like I said, 5 years ago, I really thought I was going to be a lobbyist, I was going to go to law school. I had different plans. And I've now just adopted this mindset of like, whatever happens, happens. I just want to be happy.
Elwood's, though, if you went to law school, I'm just saying.
And that was my inspiration. Yeah, I saw the question that you like on the icebreakers, like, who is your character role life model on the icebreaker? And I was going, yes, exactly. I was battling with it. I was like, I feel like I'm supposed to say like a very important woman in my life. And I have many important women, but like Elwood's is very important in my life. She is the blueprint of most of what I do. And a lot of why that feeling that I have now and of like, I'm just going to be 100% myself. Because when you watch Legally Blonde, she's in a world where people tell her she's too much, she's too pink, she's not serious enough. I understand that.
Thank you.
Yeah. And she goes through it and succeeds because she was completely herself. She wins the court case because she knows the finite rules of hair care from Cosmopolitan.
Exactly.
If that's your knowledge base, use it to your advantage. And that has always empowered me. I'm very much a girly girl. If it comes in pink, I'm going to buy it. I feel like sometimes you're supposed to hide that part of yourself, but like, femininity is something that should be brought into the world and celebrated, not torn down. Totally. And Elwood's is that champion of that for me.
Yes, I love that. One thing that I want to ask you, though, is kind of as we close this out.
Yeah.
If you could choose one piece of advice to give young women, what would you say to young women that you think could help guide them in this life?
Stop saying sorry. Stop apologizing when you ask for more or ask for opportunities. I've seen this in the workplace because I battled with it myself. There were many times I stifled raising my hand or speaking up because I felt like I had no place in the conversation. I very much did. But I shut myself up. I said sorry for asking for big promotions or asking for the cookie is the better word. I think as women, you know, we're supposed to be ashamed of being successful, of asking for more. And
we diminish ourselves.
We diminish ourselves completely. We diminish our success. And I feel like we as women shouldn't be scared to go, I have qualifications. I have the knowledge. You know, I may not know everything. I've always said this. I may not know everything, but I'm willing to learn everything.
But there's also so much good that comes out of understanding that you don't know everything,
Yeah.
because it's a bad place to be when you think that you know everything. So I think there's so much wisdom in that. We talk about this in the surgery world all the time. And of course, there are a lot of beautiful male surgeons out there that do really good work. But it's funny because going through training, we would talk about how the guys would execute a surgery and they'd be like, I'm the best. I'm the greatest. I killed that. And the female would do the same surgery and she would come out of it and be like, I don't know if I did that the best. I bet I could have improved that. I think I should have done more. I think I should have done this. But I think of a balance somewhere in between of still having that confidence of like knowing you can do it and you did do it and you do have the capacity, but also having the wisdom to understand that there's always room for growth, I think is really important.
Of course. My cousin Tiffany just recently told me this story. It was at my cousin Krista's wedding. I think I was like 7 or 8. I was a little girl. And she goes, I remember you walking, you know, running around that wedding reception going, I'm the best. I'm the best.
Cute.
And I'm just trying to adopt that mindset of like a little girl again. I'm like, I'm the best. I'm the best. And it's okay to be the best. I think as women, it's like, well, I'm not supposed to be the best. I'm not supposed to take this opportunity away from somebody else. I don't deserve this. Like, you do deserve this. You are the best. And I think when we stifle ourselves, we lose such great traction in our careers, in our lives, in our relationships with boyfriends and friends. And when we just tell ourselves, you know, like we've got to be sorry and ashamed of our success. I think we just have the moral of the story today is just, it's time to remove some shame from our lives.
Don't say sorry.
Don't say sorry. Remove the shame, and be comfortable being too much for sure. Mic drop. Thank y'all so much for letting me join today. It was so much fun. It was going to be a gushy episode, and I'm just thankful that y'all have just let me have a space to gush and to share my truth and my story. No expertise here, just my thoughts and my feelings about what I'm passionate about. I think y'all have created a really cool space, and I'm excited to see how y'all grow. Of course. Thank you guys.
We're honored. We're honored to have you.
Of course, y'all.
You have been listening to Ladies Who Lead podcast, hosted by Dr. Lindsay Tavakolian and Mary Catherine Dampy. Please rate and review this podcast wherever you are listening. You can stay connected with us between episodes by following us on Instagram at Ladies Who Lead podcast, where we share exclusive content and updates on future episodes. Until next time, we thank you for listening.